From where I sit in the desert, what kind of clothes did he wear? Furs. As I sit in the desert in my furs, I have to tell you this. We have never needed you more. We have never needed you more. And don't tell me I'm too old. Don't tell me I'm tired. Don't tell me it's somebody else's turn. You're it. We have never needed you more. So this last Tuesday, I flew in yesterday, so on Tuesday, what do you think I did? I went to get my hair cut. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen those people in 7 years. I can't look terrible. Gabriella's mom owns the salon I go to. And because it's summer break, Gabriella was there in the shop when I got there. She's in 5th grade. She is very smart. She's a little sassy. She plays on the Little League football team. She's the only girl. And she hopped up in the chair and sat next to me while I was getting my hair cut. And she told me about Mrs. Anderson. Mrs. Anderson is 94. And Gabriella's mom has been doing her hair for years. In fact, even though Mrs. Anderson doesn't really get out of the house very much anymore, Gabriella and her mom go to Mrs. Anderson's house, and Gabriella's mom cuts her hair at home. Really, the only place Mrs. Anderson goes these days is to choir practice. A couple weeks ago, Mrs. Anderson invited Gabriella and her mom to come to a concert that her choir was giving. They said, yes, of course. But as Gabriella's mom put it, well, you know, we were the only 2 brown people in the whole place. As they walked in, everybody turned around to look. And the woman who was right in front of them turned and said to the woman that she was walking in with, "Who let these Mexicans in here?" Gabriella wanted to say something, but her mom grabbed her arm and told her to hush up. I watched in the mirror as Gabriella's mom said to me, "Well, what do you expect? And what difference would it have made?" And she just kind of shrugged her shoulders. I turned in my chair and I looked directly at Gabriella, who was sitting there with her backwards baseball hat. And I said, "Gabriella, I'm so sorry that you had to experience that." And she just gave me a crooked smile. And she said, "Oh, Kelly, that was weeks ago." And what she meant was, that's just how it is. Women of the ELCA, that is not how it is in the world that God envisions for us. In the world that God is ushering in, the new thing that God is doing, Gabriella is precious. Black men do not have to be afraid of the police. Pregnant women do not die in the desert trying to cross over into freedom. No one is hungry. Parents don't have to choose between buying medicine for their sick child and paying their rent. We live in harmony with the earth. In the world that God is ushering in, there is peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. From where I sit in the desert, and I can't think of another thing to show you what I look like eating or wearing, barefoot with sandals. From where I sit in the desert, I am really hoping that on this 500th anniversary of the Reformation, every sleepy congregation in this denomination wakes up. That every Christian, and I mean very specifically now, every white Christian, faces up to the mess that we have made of this world and gets to work making it right. I hope that you do more than celebrate the Reformation that happened 500 years ago. I hope you usher in a new one. Now, I know all the reasons why some folks might, I don't know, want to sit under a tree with an adult beverage and debate this with me. I've been there, remember? I've heard the practical reasons. People will get mad, people will leave, people will stop giving. I've heard the theological reasons. Kelly, you can't tell people they have to do something. They might think that's how they get saved, and that's not very Lutheran now, is it? I remember doing theological somersaults at the seminary, trying to prove how the gift is the call, and the call is the gift, and okay, it's taken me 7 years to recover from this. But I know this. Maybe my theology is all goofed up, but I know this. Something greater than the temple is here. Something greater than our precious theology is here. Something even greater than this book is here. God is here. And God is on a mission to love and bless and save and heal the world and to make all things new. God will work in and through anybody who is willing, and God will stop at nothing to get it done. The only question I have for you women of the ELCA is this: are you ready? Are you ready?
Yes.
Amen. Don't come out tomorrow. Don't worry. And I don't know, I did live in Minnesota for a few years, and so I know Minnesota nice, Wisconsin nice, a lot of our churches are nice. And I wonder in that Bible study whether that is creating some trouble for us. There are truths that need to be spoken. There are actions that need to be taken. And so, so that's what you're referring to, right, Linda?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's a heck of a question for our illustrious panel. Where are you seeing nice in the church today? Name names.
I live the closest to here, so let me take a stab at that. Kelly, first I want to say, the next time I'm in really, really big trouble, I hope I'm in it with you. I think when Gabriella and her mom walked into the church for Mrs. Anderson's choir concert, I think there were some people also who overheard the comment and who said nothing.
Right.
And I think that's nice, that needs to be addressed, because I don't think that should have been allowed to just float out there as a comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, since I guess we can just go ahead and jump right in from my perspective. And I think that this thing around whiteness, and I hope we can go there right now, because you began to kind of open that up, Kelly, and I hope the audience can kind of hear where I hope I'm coming from. You know, the institution, the religious institutions in this country, when we think about the complicity of so many injustices, the church has been nice or quiet, right? Has not been at the forefront. We think about slavery, when we think about even the American Indian boarding schools, when we think about the civil rights movement, institutions, particularly Protestant, white, mainline institutions, there's been a reward for being nice, right? It helps to keep racism functioning, because you can't have racism without institutions that support it, right? So it's not just individuals, it's the government and its institutions and its policies and its practices and its behaviors. All of that helps to keep racism and other forms of oppression happening. So when I hear clergy who go through racial justice training, who do anti-racism work, when I hear the frustration when they say, you know, I can't preach this message in my congregation. I can't bring this back to my community, you know, and why? Because people don't want to hear that when they come to church. So we go for the feel-good, domesticated Jesus experience, and it's a very short 45-minute worship, and then we go home. We go away, specifically in the white community, right? So there's a way that whiteness and niceness help to maintain not looking at the real facts and the real issues. And I think, and the real injustices. And I think what you experienced even in your own travel, you know, you talked about getting in close proximity. You had to pick up and move and go to another community and to understand the plight of Black and brown people. It didn't happen in a vacuum, it doesn't happen in a bubble. So it's really through your own journey and transformation that you were called to go even deeper and to be that voice and to join with other people. So, you know, I think what you shared in your story, you know, it's powerful, number one, and it talks about all of our own vulnerability to be in true, authentic relationship when we decide that we're going to go against the grain and we're not going to continue to perpetuate the rewards that come with it. In your case, it's white privilege, that you spoke up. And when you speak up and you're white, then there's a consequence to pay for that, right? And when you speak up for when you're Black, or stay silent, because in the case with Gabriella, you know, she said that's every day. Those are the microaggressions and paper cuts that people of color experience on a day-to-day basis, and not just people of color. Women, those who are in the LGBTQ community, those who live with disabilities. Paper cuts and microaggressions are things that we constantly have to navigate through life.
Well, and you know, I'm just going to be the queen of nice here now. I think being nice, that is a problem. But when I travel around this church, and I make it a point to talk to pastors, deacons when possible, but parish pastors, and say, how has it been for you since the election in November? And how are you walking with and beside your people and loving them, while at the same time pointing out that there's a lot of work to be done in this country. And I know, Patricia and I know that one of our sister bishops received an angry call from an angry parishioner who said, how dare the pastor choose a particular Bible passage to critique the administration? And Bishop Bartholomew said, well, what was the passage? And it was the Beatitudes. Which I think maybe we're listening to Jesus with new ears now. But then so quickly, and I maybe was too gentle and too nice in my sermon alluding to this, is that the powers that be, they will set us one against another. So how, I'm asking pastors, how are you walking with and loving these people for whom Jesus died, while at the same time finding ways to listen to their wisdom, but also not to let these things go by. It's a difficult time. I have people who love what I write, and I have people who actually hate what I write. I spent time in North Dakota because I had issued a statement based on our statement on racism and also our repudiation of the doctrine of discovery, saying that we supported the peaceful water protectors in Standing Rock, and there are many, many people, there's sisters who feel that the church has completely forgotten them and did not value their vocation as ranchers or farmers, or as law enforcement. So I'm glad that you have a voice and you can speak truth to power, and I'm glad it's important that your sister Judith do this. And I try when I can. But then how do we keep us all together so that people can still hear? You can't hear if you're walking away. And that's some of the, I don't want to be nice all together, and people can tell me, well, my brothers will tell you I'm not always nice. But that's the road I'm taking. There are faithful people in this church who would have been indicted by the words that you said in the Bible study. Would have been indicted by the Beatitudes, for heaven's sakes, or Matthew 25. Well, what's that about? And how do we see these people as brothers and sisters in Christ, love them, but then also say, Jesus was pretty clear. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. So I don't know if the answer is a nice question, but that's where I find myself a lot.
All right, thank you. This is a question here that comes from one of our participants. What might you say to someone, and you can imagine any number of people sitting in our congregations, who feel that the faithful call to action and response is too political? I know we have a resource that you're all welcome to download from ELCA.org called Call to be Political, but I don't want to be political. So.
Well, I mean, just right there, when the bishop in New Jersey got a call, an angry call because the pastor was being too political because she read the gospel from Matthew chapter 6, 5 and 6, that was political. Jesus was very political. I'm not sure what we mean by political. I know if I were in church and someone told me, for example, that it was Jesus' will that we all have carried concealed weapons, I might think that that was a political position. Someone else might not. But Lutherans should be political. This dichotomy, this separating our spiritual lives from our lives in the world is not, it's not scriptural, it's not Christian, and it's not Lutheran. So, I think a number of you said that you read my columns in the Lutheran, which I thought only my mother read, so I'm people. But I did comment about that it's our job to show up. But how do we show up in love? And I don't mean in niceness, but in love that sometimes is heart-wrenching because you can see the pain that we cause. But no, being political, we don't endorse candidates because we'll lose our 501c3 status, but unless the administration goes ahead and repeals the Johnson Amendment, and then we can all have fundraisers and endorse candidates in our congregations. I don't want it to be too hard. So, sorry, I jumped in and claimed this.
I want to say, Elizabeth, I think you've been an excellent example of keeping our faith in public. Because I think that's what you're saying. It's not partisan, but how do we make what we're about in the church public? And I think often the word, for me, the word political gets used when the word public would serve perhaps better. And if I can turn this back around to Kelly. Kelly, one of the things you've done as you introduced your life to us is you've been living out your faith in public. And I think that was a very, very powerful way for you to share the persistence of God coming. I don't know if you want to add more. You gave us 45 good minutes of how God is so clearly present in the world. But I really admire that that's where your leadership has drawn you. That's where your testimony has taken you. It's not any different than your faithfulness when you were wearing a collar and doing more of your speaking within the church. But I just wonder if there are ways that's also opened you up as the CEO of a nonprofit to think about public, think about witness, think about those lines of political and partisan. If you want to come back to that yet again in response to this question. Did you want to jump in, Julie?
Well, I mean, just to piggyback on what Bishop has already shared, I mean, you know, Cornell said,
we have a role to speak the words that Jesus spoke. But your people need to know that, first of all, that you love Jesus and that you love them, those two things. And so if we're doing this in love, which doesn't mean being nice, I mean, my parents loved me, but there's some things that they had to do that were difficult. So if you start on that basis, believe, I mean, we're baptized.
And we hear that in baptism we've already died the only death that really matters. So we're not going to die from this. Other people die because of what we do, but we're not going to die from this. We can have this conversation. And to be, you know, when the first time I heard about white privilege, I was torqued. I said, I didn't want to hear about that. And then I think, Judith, you gave me a book, In the Color of Money, or maybe...
Color of Wealth?
Yeah. And so it was how wealth is accumulated in this country. And it's built in that some people are able to accumulate wealth and others aren't. And I don't mean like gobs of money. So I remembered this. My dad was in the Army Air Corps in World War II. He flew B-24s. And my father was a brave man, and he worked hard. He went to night school for college, worked 14-hour days, raised us. He was a brave, hard-working man. And he had the benefits of the GI Bill. But you know who the fighter, the escort squadron was for my father's B-24s? It was the Tuskegee Airmen. It was the Red Tails. And when they came back, also brave men serving their country, they did not benefit from the GI Bill. That's the reality. That's what we're talking about. I mean, so we're getting a little philosophical about it, but that's an absolute thing. Our districting is done different. Redlining still exists in this country. And I think Starbucks, the fount of all, you know, cool, edgy, on fleek wisdom and knowledge in the popular culture, did some research where they saw that we're not all treated the same. And I think I'm getting way far afield. They might not ask me back here anymore. When we talk about being colorblind, that's another point of privilege. Because that means we, who are the majority, can say we don't see color because we don't have to see color. But can we be color amazed? Can we see that sisters and brothers, that this diversity is a gift, and that is part of who they are? Not to say that's less or more important. That's another thing. We make everyone beige if we do that. So there's another of these points where we don't have to think about it. Real quick test here. How many of you are right-handed? Oh, yeah, very good. How many of you are left-handed? Okay, right. Right-handers. When do you ever have to think about being right-handed?
Never.
Left-handers, how many times a day are you reminded that you're left-handed? Yeah, and that's benign. That's benign because there are some value judgments on it, but not necessarily. Now imagine that, you know, we don't have to think about how we swim through this ocean of this world, but people of color do. People from the LGBTQ community have to do that. That's, I think, what you're trying to say. But if we know that we're loved completely by God, absolutely. Not that God is nice. So I hate Billy Joel theology. You know, I like you just the way you are. No, God does not like us the way we are, but God loves us and is trying to love us into something who we could be. And so if that's true, it's possible for us to have these conversations and make change.
We have just a few moments left.
I'm sorry.
No, it's great conversation. And it's a conversation that can continue all weekend for sure and far into the future. Could you, maybe each of you, or at least a couple of you, answer the question of how you successfully keep dissenting voices at the table so that this important conversation will not die?
How do you keep dissenting voices? I mean, for me, one of the struggles is, I'm just going to take it from a different perspective, and I hope it's okay. First of all, the conversations aren't happening enough. That's the first challenge. And I think part of that reason is, you know, Jesus was relational, and even in our own pews, we haven't first done that tending and mending of even building the relationships that we need to have with one another, and let alone to do that, you know, within community. And I think the more that we're in relationship, especially with, I'm just going to use the historic Black church because that's one of the church by assembly actions, is that, you know, this mainline white, predominantly white denomination, that we need to be in deeper relationship with our brothers and sisters in Christ. That's the proximity conversation that I was saying. So for me, it's still relational. right? So if we're not relational in our pews to really get to know each other, and we're not relational in community, then, I mean, it's easy for those with voices, those dissenting voices, to kind of have that power, because we haven't really kind of done some of that work ourselves. So for me, I just believe in the strength of numbers. I believe in the strength of relationships. I believe in the strength of being courageous and bold and having those discussions, first of all, starting with white privilege. You know, how do we even name that in our congregational settings when there are no people of color enter into a conversation about race? But can we own, as a denomination, can leaders walk away and say, I need to own what white privilege looks like. I need to understand how institutional racism functions. I need to understand and want to know what structural racism looks like. And then how do I fit into that story? So for me, it's a part of it is accountability, part of it is relational, and those dissenting voices, we're going to get them no matter what. And you got to keep the door open and keep our hearts open, but who can we join with that do align with our values? How do we amplify those voices first and foremost, so it's not just the squeaky wheel that's going to get the oil, because we constantly get the letters. We get, yeah, I don't want to go too deep into that, but yes.
You write a lot.
Yeah, we get a lot of
email, a lot of
yes.
text.
And even when that even happens, I'm still trying to be in relationship, even with those who don't agree. I mean, we take the time to call, we take the time to listen. And somewhere in that conversation, sometimes there's an opportunity to find some middle ground. So I don't give up. We shouldn't give up, but can we first tend to some relationship building and some connections first? So that's my short answer.
Nice.
Well, will you join me in thanking our panel this evening?